And now your host of Where's My Parachute? It's Steve Lemieux.
Hey, you got to start out smiling with an intro like that every time. So, welcome to the show, and super excited. One, to have Aaliyah back with me.
Hello.
So she did the diversity and culture conversation and goes deep with that. And then I have Curtis Hite, who is the CEO of Improving, and super busy man. Really lucky to get 45 minutes with him on the show. And so welcome, man.
Excited to be here.
Glad to have you. Super pumped. And we got Matt in the box again.
Yes, sir. Good to have you back.
Got to show your face on the screen.
I'll make my one appearance.
Our Glen Rose connection now. We got to talk about that.
Yeah,
so.
Sure. Back in the box for me.
That's right. And then I've got all sorts. We'll call him the Eagle. How's that go?
Oh, there he goes. Hit it again.
Okay. Let me try again. There we go. The Eagle.
Much better.
Yes. Yeah. So I know a little bit about Curtis's story, not the whole thing, but as you guys know, this show is about the good, the bad, the ugly. And I didn't ask you before where you didn't want me to go today. So
That's okay.
If I start going somewhere, just hold up the hand and I'll shut up.
I'll answer it.
Yeah, it's cool going vulnerable, man. It's scary, but it's cool. I actually did a pre-recorded show last week that airs airs on the 20th, and I went way deeper than I've ever gone, and I'm very nervous about that coming out in the public, right?
It'll be fine.
Yeah. You know, Bethany told me yesterday, she goes, some people think that's a sign of weakness, but it's really a sign of strength, and most people know that that's a sign of strength.
Yeah.
So, cool. So, first of all, just briefly, because we'll talk about it throughout, but tell us about Improving, what you guys do, when you started, where you're at there.
All right. Improving is a software development and management consulting firm. We provide professional services in the technology arena. We'll build applications or integrate applications. We teach others how to do so, but in short, we're a technology consulting firm.
So tell me what like a perfect client for you would be. What would they want you to do? What would you come in and do?
There are a lot of perfect clients.
Yeah.
So,
every single one that you have?
Yes. No, not everyone. But if somebody wanted a website built, we can build you a website. If you want a mobile app, we can do that. If you have two back-end systems, software systems, and they're not talking to each other, we can help you with that. So anything that is software related, we can manage the projects, we can help with the strategy, we can even help you flesh out your ideas and kind of do the creative part of that as well.
Got it. So truly like programming, I mean a lot of programming stuff.
That is the core of the business, and all the services that go around that.
Yeah, cool. And you're the founder.
I am.
Uh-huh.
Really, there's two roots founded in our company, so a little bit of the history of that. We were founded under the name Blue Ocean Group.
Okay.
And it was myself and a group of colleagues from my previous company. And then there was another company out there that was called Improving Enterprise, LLC. And they were a training company. And they're a small company. They're around $500,000 to $600,000 a year. Two incredible consultants that had founded that company. And they were struggling a little bit. They had lost a couple $100,000. When it comes to being an entrepreneur, a lot of people think it's a lot easier. And in our market, it can be easy to enter, but very hard to be successful. So anyway, the two of them were well known to my partners and I, and we got together and we discussed potentially merging. And so within about 4 months of us founding Blue Ocean Group, we acquired Improving Enterprises. They had a couple years of history, so we adopted their name, the namesake.
Sure.
But that's really the founding of the company, where these two groups of people came together in 2007, and then we're here now 11 years later.
That's awesome. And that was your first foray into entrepreneurship?
Absolutely not. No, that was.
Do you
my
have that disease?
Second foray into being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and all of it's gone super smooth, like from day one.
No. There's that's pretty funny. No, I probably got started in both the right and the wrong time. During the dot-com days.
Yep.
Back in 1998. Joined a different group of partners, was not the founder of that company, but was one of the founding leaders. Joined them just months after they had started it as well. And that was an interesting time. We were acquired within 1 year of starting
money
the company.
was just flying everywhere.
Flying.
Yeah,
we
crazy.
IPO'd 1 year and a month after.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then we sold to a French company. And then we just took off. The next, I guess, 8 months, we went from around €7 because we're trading on the French Nouveau Marché.
Yep.
And we peaked at around 370. Right. You know, the average company that has $120 million in revenue, 10 million in EBITDA, and then you have a $2 billion market cap.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so when you were acquired then, did you put money in your pocket?
No, had a lot of restrictions. We took some, but really we rolled it into the IPO, and then we went public. And being a director of the company, knowing that the valuations were so crazy, I couldn't sell enough, quick enough. And I probably didn't even get to sell 5% of my value because of the restrictions. And then the whole crash happened, and as quickly as you go up that exciting ride, you fall just as quickly in the dot-com. And we were talking about this earlier, but being an entrepreneur in good times, it's a little bit easier than either normal or bad times. I feel we're kind of in the good times again right now.
Seems like it.
Yeah. And so it's a little bit easier right now, which is good. Allows a lot of people to enter the business and things, or become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But at some point, things kind of thin back out.
Yeah. No, and I mean, so my business is commercial real estate, and we always laugh because in 97, 98, 99, everybody coming out of college wanted to be in commercial real estate, and by 2002, there was maybe half. Just everybody quit because.
Yeah, we went through that cycle in technology services. Probably 2 out of every 3 businesses went out of business in about a 2.5 year time period.
And it's amazing. You think back to like 2008, and we actually did better through the Great Recession, as they call it. So 7, 8, 9, and then 10, we kind of started rolling out of it in Dallas pretty much. But we did, so our company made more money each year, and I don't think there was we weren't doing anything different or whatever. We were just staying focused, like, sales calls, growth, right?
Well, that's where we grew up. We grew up in the recession.
Yeah, you started in 2007, right?
That's correct.
That's a great time to start. I started my company in 2001, right after September 11th, in November.
If you have solid fundamentals, it really is a good time to start a business.
I joke, but it was a great time, because if you can make it through that and succeed, then when the good times come around, you're really rocking.
You can capitalize. You learn to be leaner in those times. You learn to be more efficient and effective with almost everything you do. And that really are some of the skills you learn in harder times are what make you more successful across the board.
Yeah, for sure. So when you first got acquired, your original company, how old were you then? 28?
27.
Okay. And so I'm assuming you didn't make a ton of money in your early 20s, and so then you got to that point, and so I struggled until, well, still sometimes, but I struggled up through kind of late 20s, early 30s, but then you kind of got a little pop, right?
Kind of. Money, it's all relative. I thought I was making a whole lot of money. Right? When you look at your background, I came out of school, I was probably making around $42,000, and I thought I was living large. So the reality is that a lot of it's perspective. But Yes, right around 27, 28, when we did the IPO, I got my first taste of what you called a pop of that. Ironically, I only wrote one check ever out of the money that I made on that. Just one. It was a $10,000 check to the church, and the rest of it just sat there and has sat there ever since.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So that's I was just writing down the similarities between you and I, and that is not one.
Seriously, only one, and it's not one of my more proud moments. But I got a divorce several years back, and everything part of that was where I went to support Kim and help her have a healthier lifestyle too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Tough situation, but excellent that you had that there.
For
Right.
sure.
I mean, that's a blessing that you, because I would have had like a Ferrari and given that back. And
I had plenty of friends that were that way.
I'm not that
That
bad,
had the no, but I did.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
got it. Even my partners back then, and the fast cars and a faster life, and just in general, and that's a struggle when people achieve success pretty quickly. You know, some people handle it well, and some people don't.
And like we were talking about before, it's interesting how outside parties look at that, right? Your friends or just regular people or employees, right? They see you, maybe they see you have a nice car, a nicer house or whatever, and it's all glory to them, right? It's like we don't have any problems as entrepreneurs. It's just wealth and fast and fun and furious. And I can't tell you. So 15 years I've had the company, and I've probably told my wife at least 10 times where I've gone in and sat down with her and said, "Hey, Dana, this is super exciting because we're never going to have to worry about our basic bills again. Like we're there." And then like 8 months later, I'm like, "Oh man, we got some cash flow issues at home, man. We're in trouble." And then, a year later, we're back on top, and I'm going, "We don't ever have to worry about, the basics. We're good. We can travel wherever we want to." And so that back and forth is, people don't see that, right? They see you when you're on top, and they don't see the pain, and they don't follow you too through personal issues that you might have had. Certainly with me, I've had a lot of those that people don't know about, or the people that look at you and hold you on this pedestal. They don't follow you through that. They just see you when you're up here. They don't see you when you're at your bank talking to your banker about, "Hey, if you don't extend this loan,"
Right.
That kind of
Well,
stuff.
no, it's kind of like Facebook or any other social media. You kind of only see the good.
Right.
And when you look at and you unsuccessful endeavors that are taken by entrepreneurs are not held up.
Right.
Which means all you do is see the exciting stories of each of these entrepreneurs that always succeed, and it's harder than a lot of people think, but it's also more exciting and there's more reward. But I heard at the Inc. 5000 conference one year that only 5 out of every 100 companies actually reach $1 million in revenue.
Really?
Right, yeah.
5 out of 100.
And then the statistics go far down. I think roughly 5 out of 10,000 reach 10 million ever.
Wow.
So when you really think about those statistics, it is more difficult. And I was very fortunate enough to have a great group of people in our business, and we kind of all rallied together. And while I might have been the leader of the group, and I have my strengths and play into those, it wasn't just me. And I would actually claim that our success over such an extended period of time is because of our collective involvement. It's one of our core values.
Yeah.
And being involved, going beyond, doing more than the minimum. And everybody does that, especially that core, but we've made that a pervasive guiding principle.
Yeah, cool. So I'm going to get into values, purpose, and our favorite topic of conscious capitalism here in a second. But
yeah, absolutely.
which, by the way, I dove in 100%, right?
Love that.
I touched my toe in with Bethany, and then it was like, okay, now I'm going to the CEO conference. We're we're one of the we're a sponsoring member or whatever.
Oh, really? The local chapter.
Yeah,
awesome.
we dove in. So I'm excited to get more involved in the leadership and whatnot and pushing that out. And I bring it up all the time. As a matter of fact, yesterday Kevin and I were, I was telling you, we were out having a discussion, and I talked to him about conscious capitalism. He'd never heard of it, and by the end of the conversation, he's like, "Okay, I'll join." I'm all right. I'm in.
It's great.
Before we
yeah,
go there,
go.
Steve, just real quick,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you wrote one check, $10,000, and it was to the church. Talk a little bit about your faith and spirituality and where that base kind of keeps you grounded, or where it takes you.
Like many people, faith is a very important and big part of my life. I really gained that through a very hard and difficult period I went through, and I started leaning on God. And now, today, I really give credit to so much due to the gifts and relationships that He's put in my life. So that is a very strong and foundational part of what I consider to be our business. So much so that me and a few of my key partners, we pray for the business every Monday, every single Monday together for 9 years. I mean, it really, I don't believe that there's coincidence in these things. I believe I have a lot of help, not only from the people here, but from my Creator.
Yeah.
I appreciate you asking that. It's great.
That's cool. So, our company name is faith-based, big time. It's just most people don't know that it is, and I wanted it to be that way, subtle. I didn't want to walk around with a cross, but I Googled. I was actually at my office trying to figure out a name. I had a terrible name for my company. It's hard to come up with company names, man. It really is weird. I had a terrible name for my company, and I was sitting there, and it was like 9 o'clock at night at my first office. It was about the size of this room here, and I said, all right, I want to give glory to you, but also I don't want it to be where people are nervous because you get screwed over by the people that claim that they're Christian, right?
Right. No,
and so I was like, I want something settled, and I said, but one of my core values is servant leadership. So I typed in servant leadership into a Latin dictionary translation, and about 3 or 4 down it said Dominus, and I was like, done, got it, perfect.
There you go.
yeah. So that's cool, man. That's really cool. Okay, so do you want to talk about? We got some time left. Do you want to talk about a significant challenge that you've overcome, business, personal? Or
sure.
Do you want to? Okay,
I'm good with anything.
Okay.
To be honest,
right.
Anything you want to ask.
Yeah. No. So I was about to tell you before we jumped on, but and this guy doesn't even know this happened to this day. But I had a guy he was on a $2,000 a month salary plus commission, and I came home one day to my wife in tears and said, "We don't have any money. We don't have any money. The bank's not going to give us any money. We don't have any money. I didn't have anybody to go to, friends or family, kind of a deal." And she said, "Oh man, you got that giant Ozarka bottle in the closet that you've been putting change in since you were like 13." She said, "Go take that down to Coinstar," which by the way rapes you, 7.5% interest. But she said, "Go take that down to Coinstar at Tom Thumb, and just see what we got there." And I took it down there. I had $2,500 in there.
Wow.
And the next morning, I wrote him a check for $2,000, and I had $500 left over for food, and for living expenses. And I was like, "Sweet, we're good."
And for one more month.
That's right. And luckily, I closed a deal shortly thereafter. But he doesn't have any idea the pain that I went through. But I was not going to let him down, even to the detriment of of us. So there are a lot of challenges that we go through, either personally or professionally in our business and our careers, right? I mean, you're working 24/7. Things have to give, on your personal side too, and that happens. So if you want to share with us anything that might give somebody out there, a challenge that you overcame and how you overcame it, it'd be great.
Sure. Well, there are a lot of challenges when you start a business. There are a lot of challenges when you run a business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of challenges, quite frankly, just being part of a business. So there's no lacking of these stories. Most of the challenges that I experience are going to be, at least at this time, are going to be people related.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have a lot of good people. A lot of people have good intentions, but good intentions can sometimes not overlap. And,
right.
And some of the hardest decisions you have to make are when you start to see dysfunction in an organization. And we're a company built on culture. And one of the maybe the hardest moments that I've had to work through at improving was we had a pretty senior executive inside the company. I'd consider him one of our partners, and his core values did not overlap as much with the rest of the organization. And that's not to say that his core values were misdirected. It just they weren't aligned with who we were. And you try to work with that. And I probably worked with that for a little bit too long. In the end, that hurts both the organization, hurts myself and my reputation, and hurts the individual that's involved, to be quite honest, because it's almost inevitable, and you haven't helped them move on or something along those. So those types of challenges tend to be very difficult. I care about people. I care about their feelings. I'm very empathetic. And that's hard. I don't like those decisions, and so that's one. I can think of another. Yeah. Have you ever had to lay anybody off?
Oh yeah. Well, I've had to fire as opposed to lay off. I mean, layoff to me is you either didn't need them or you shut down that door. But I've had people that didn't align.
So I had to lay off.
Okay.
And that challenge was just probably the most excruciating business event that I ever did. This was during the .com days. This was not at this company, the last company that I was part of starting up. And Enron was our largest client. And we thought we were diversified because we had been so successful inside that organization building their systems that we were now in 5 of their subsidiaries. And the thought was, wow, the whole company would have to go under for us to be exposed. Well, the whole company went under.
Yeah.
And that was probably 40% of our business. We had one client representing, and it went away without notice in 2 weeks. And you have to make a decision. We're a culture-based company. I work with friends. I have an that they are just friends, and I know most people at the company at some personal level. And so when you have to make the decision that, okay, I'm going to have to lay off 30-40% of the workforce to save the other 60, but many of these people are the friends, the people you care about. That's pretty excruciating, and it doesn't help your self-confidence or anything like that. The one thing I can say is that at that period, I personally took the time to lay off every person. And I think part of it might be my own punishment or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
But well, we were approaching 200 people, so you're probably talking 60 to 80.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine that. I'm sure that you're sitting there with your executive team going through files of the different employees and trying to say who's been here longest, who's the best fit for this, all those kind of things.
It's just an exercise that I try to forget at this point. I mean, I don't forget the pain. You don't want to be there.
Right.
But there's a lot of things too. We were not efficient.
Yeah.
Okay. Rates were high, everything like that. So you could have SG&A costs that were seriously 3 times more than they needed to be, and you would justify them. But then when you go through leaner times, there's no way. And so even today, our business, maybe sometimes today I don't take enough risk when it comes to hiring some of the back office positions, and many of them, including my partner Rick, is very stretched thin all the time, because I do live with a little bit of fear of, no, we're not going to overextend ourselves like we did back, because I don't ever want to go through that.
You know, it's amazing. I heard somebody, I can't remember what show it was on, or maybe it was a podcast or something like that, but I heard somebody talking about, like, in 2000, early 2008 or so, talking about how he loves recessions as a business owner, because it allows him to really step back. And not that that was a great time for you, I'm not saying that, but it allows him to skinny up where he's gotten fat, right? Like we don't need to have all this, and we can actually increase our profit rate and trim down.
That's one of our competitive advantages today. But back then, in all honesty, as a new entrepreneur, no, you're believing in yourself.
Sure.
Okay, you think you're probably better than you really are, and I didn't view it that way. I viewed it as, look, I have all these friends, and look what I'm doing for these friends, and look what I'm doing over here and over there, and aren't I great? And the reality is, you get a big dose in a moment of that of, no, you're really not that great. And I was very fortunate, and right place, right time plays a big role sometimes, and that's okay. Yeah. Right? Sometimes it is better to be lucky than good, and I was getting lucky at that point. But it was not. I was naive, and then all of a sudden I found myself laying off good people.
Yeah.
But I had no choice. Otherwise, the business goes out.
You know, I'm sure they all knew where your heart was when you were doing that too.
Many came back years later once we started to grow and rebuild. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I hired a lot back. I tried to treat everybody with dignity. You miss a few sometimes, and I think there's a little bit of irony in the story. It's another big moment of humility for me, is after we had recovered out of this and we're kind of reaching new peaks, literally record revenues, something happened at the company, and I was let go. Right? Or I think in your terms, fired. But it was, I don't know, that was a hard moment for me, because I really felt that I'd given my heart and soul. I'd given up salary. I had given up bonuses that were due. Yet this happened. And when you sell your company, by the way, that can always happen. You're no longer in control. And that was a realization that I still had all the ownership behaviors, yet this. And we were at record all-time high revenues and profits. Somebody else just wanted to run the business at that point. And, it was, on the good side, the inspiration and the motivation to start the business now, because pride does tend to kick in at that point, and you're like, you know what? I guess they don't think I can do it. Maybe I'll give a shot. Maybe I can, maybe I can't, but I'm going to try.
So when I got into commercial real estate, the first broker I worked for called me in his office. There was some stuff going on in the office, and he called me in the office and he told me, he said, "You have no idea what it takes to run a company." He said, "You'll never own your own company. It's super difficult. So, kind of don't give me any crap," is where he was going with it. I remember walking out of his office going, well, I guess I got to start a company now.
I have a little of that in me as well. But, it is, what he was saying was true. Yep. Maybe not that you didn't know, but starting companies hard.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's why I did it with friends, to be quite honest. And another thing I think that's kind of unique about our business is knowing this. And even though I started this company, from the very beginning, I knew I was going to share in the success. It's one of our commitments to the employee, and I shared 87% of the business with the employees. In voting equity, meaning even today, I can be voted off the island, per se. I can be, if they don't like me as CEO, I will no longer be CEO. They can take it. I don't have a controlling interest. Yet I have the largest stake. I just don't have a controlling interest.
Yeah, that's cool.
It is cool.
Let's jump into, before we have to wrap up here, let's jump into one of your favorites. So do you want to read our purpose statement?
Sure. Yeah.
Go for it.
That'll be great. Let's see.
I wrote it.
Thanks.
I don't know if you can read how I wrote.
I can. So Dominus has a new purpose statement that we're trying on, and we know that purpose can shift a little bit, but this is the way we're feeling right now, and it feels actually pretty stable. But it's to bring forth joy through intentionally designed environments where strategy, culture, and purpose intersect.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's the why we're doing the work we do.
Yeah, so we had a session on Saturday with a group that's building a building. We're developing a building for them, and they have core values and they have purpose. They just don't have it written down, and as you know, that's super important. So we went through a whole day of exercises. Aaliyah was running it, where we were pulling out their core values and coming up with purpose statements. And it's not set in stone. We're still going to have to go back and revive it. And then we got into their building that they want to build, and it's like, okay, what things can we do kind of nebulously, right? Not like, I kept saying, I don't want to talk about doors and which way they swing. I want to talk about feelings and emotions of what can we do to have this space, project the culture, the values, the purpose of your company. And it was just a phenomenal day. I mean, people were bringing up all sorts of stuff about when their clients come and just, how they want them to feel and how they want it to flow. And what we asked them, like, okay, so what color makes you productive or relaxed? What smell? We just went through this whole thing. It was just phenomenal. So
yeah, and they were also able to reflect on environments that were really inviting to them. So it's nice because we all have those touch points of places that we feel really good and comfortable, et cetera. So it was an awesome day, as Steve has been saying.
Yeah. So like one of the questions we had was, what comfort at your house do you just love that could be easily brought into your space? And it was just interesting getting all the different reactions. But I know you guys are super big on culture and values and purpose. And
absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit about that, and then we'll talk a little bit about conscious capitalism when we wrap up.
Okay, so I'll maybe give a lead into the conscious capitalism topic, but one of the 4 tenets of conscious capitalism is having a purpose beyond just making money or making profit, and we certainly fall into that category. We don't use the term purpose at Improving, but we certainly have purpose-oriented vision statements. The first, we talk about our ambition, and this is really internally focused, us as employees. And I heard at a major conference from a CEO that outside of sales teams, IT teams have the worst perceptions amongst CEOs of all the different business functions.
Wow.
And I heard that at the beginning of a keynote speech, and we call it our 6-hand story. It's a long one, but I can remember I didn't hear the next hour and a half because I am in the IT industry, meaning, oh my gosh, I'm one of the worst perceptions that exists out there amongst CEOs.
Commercial real estate brokers is right behind that.
But, so
that just
when
ground on you.
It did.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? Our industry, in all fairness, has earned some of that. But not all of it, but still we have. And you got to own it if you're going to do something. And it was at that point that gave seed to what we consider our ambition of trying to positively change that perception of the IT professional, not just for us, but for all of our stakeholders that might be IT professionals. And later on, which is a more outward looking, if you go to our website, this is where you land on it, is we do that by our promise of building trust.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's a scary promise. We believe that when you operate in an environment of trust, it changes everything, but it's scary because you also know inevitably you will fail. We do fail. You put it out there and somebody can use that again. Well, can't trust you because you made this mistake. But that's ours to own. And if we're going to change the perception, I really feel of the IT professional, I feel that it's rooted in establishing trust with the stakeholders, the CEOs, the business, the financial teams, and really rooted there. And that's where our purpose is rooted. Our ambition and our promise. I could speak all day on this.
Sure.
We have really strong culture and core values. Every one of our cities is recognized as the best place to work. We've been number 2 in Texas, number 1 in Ohio. We've been number 1 in Dallas and Columbus. I take great pride that we try to create a great place to work. Not perfect. No place is perfect, but a great place.
How did you integrate Blue Ocean Group and improving enterprises?
So
The
Blue
two
Ocean,
cultures.
well, they were very small in starting.
Okay.
So Improving Enterprises LLC was a training company, I think 6 employees, right? We had a bigger employee base, but they hadn't all come on. It was done in kind of a triangular acquisition, so we acquired them, accepted their name, but we converted into an Inc. But it was pretty easy. We knew the 2 founders very well. I'd known them for 10 years of that company, and then we all came together to found Improving as it exists today.
So
culturally, it was easy.
Yeah. So it wasn't like 2 big, deep cultures clashing.
No.
Together.
But we have done acquisitions since then, self-funded acquisitions, and what we do is we actually look at the groups and make sure that they are aligned culturally, so that we don't have to face the challenge that you're talking about. Meaning that's where we start. Every one of the acquisitions we've done since then, we start with values, we start with guiding principles. We don't talk about anything else. We then go away, and if both parties still feel like you still want to talk, then we go there.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So we got to wrap up here pretty quick,
No
but so I had heard of conscious capitalism before. I'm an ILP graduate, and when I found EO, I was like, wow, I found my my tribe, right? I mean, it was what I'd been just looking for, and then I saw you speak, met Bethany. She bugged me. I said, okay, fine, I'll go to the conference. And I remember within like 3 hours of being in the conference, I'm texting my wife and going, "You've got to get up here. Come up here." She ended up not making it, but she's going to. I'm going to try and sneak her into a session or 2 in Houston.
There you go.
But I was like, "This is my people, right?" I mean, clearly, not everybody is perfect in that group, but I just remember hearing people, not necessarily the speakers, but the people that you're sitting beside talking about their people. And like I make it a point to never say somebody works for me. I always say we work together, or we're on the same team, or and I actually tell my people, like when we're going into a sales pitch, I'm like, hey, don't introduce me as the boss or the president, or just say we work together.
Sure.
Part of that's an ego deal where it just makes me feel uncomfortable. But so anyways, long story short, I went to that conference and I was like, okay, this is my other tribe. I'm here. Very similar to EO, really, actually, in a lot of ways. But you're a big part of that, and I know you've been involved since kind of the get-go. So just take us through that real quick, because I think it's so important for people to be able to find that if it's something they're looking for.
So first of all, the organization, it's an international movement now, has over 40 chapters across the globe, and large companies are proponents of conscious capitalism. Whole Foods, Container Store, several other big names as well are very involved in this movement. It's built on 4 tenets. I already talked about one, a purpose beyond just making money. Far too often, companies focus only on making money. Why? Because they have stakeholders, and the stakeholder model is beyond just the shareholder. And you make money because you want to make the shareholders money, but there's the industry, there's the community, there are your employees, there are customers, there's this whole ecosystem that you have to pay attention to. That's the second tenet. And then third is a commitment to culture, right? Various cultures, but the culture that your company is meant to be. And finally, conscious leadership. Those are the 4 tenets. But it is built upon the belief that capitalism is probably the greatest force for good the world has ever known. And if you really look into the statistics of poverty and food, hunger, when you look at what capitalism is doing to reduce these things worldwide, it's almost undeniably the biggest force for good. And so you have people that say, hey, in a conscious manner, it's not just about making money, But making money is the air we breathe. Companies go out of business if they don't make profit.
Got to do it, yeah.
Right? But it's not just about that.
Yeah.
What else are we doing to serve our stakeholders, to serve our purpose, to serve employees that are part of our organizations? It's big movement. I'm very passionate about it. I'm on the international board just of this year at this point. And I would welcome anybody, just putting it out there, anybody want to hear about it in more detail, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be glad to talk to you about it.
Yeah, it really is cool. It's interesting. It's interesting to see that. It's probably been 10 years ago now or so that that my wife and I talked about donating to certain organizations. And if they were government funded, we stopped donating because it's like, if the government's going to, it's just not, doesn't feel right and it doesn't seem, but so many companies go out either individually or through organizations and just make a huge difference, right?
Yeah, and it does. It goes beyond just donating, giving.
Right, sure.
We make our space available to professional groups, meetup groups every night because we have training rooms that we use, but
That's
they
awesome.
go unused. We have over 20,000 people use our space every year on our charge. We give back to the industry, the community that way. We speak over 300 times as we're giving back to the community, taking our knowledge, our experience, trying to share it with others. And we're reaching just between those two things, those two stakeholders, over 40,000 people a year.
And at the end of the day, even though the purpose is beyond making money, that giving back probably allows us to be more successful from a profitability standpoint.
Sure, it's just not why we do it.
It's not why we do it. Right,
but it inevitably goodwill, and this is where my faith comes back in. I'll pull it. When you do good things, good things tend to happen. Not always. They don't always. But I will tell you, the more good you do in the world, in general, the more good happens to you and those around you.
Man, that's a perfect way to stop.
Good last word.
That's a perfect way to stop. So all you people out there, go do some good today.
Good,
Make
yeah.
the next right choice.
Absolutely.
Curtis, thank you so much, man. It's just
Thank
a
you guys
pleasure
so
to have
much.
you. Aaliyah,
Glad to
thanks
be
for
here.
doing it. Matt, thanks for all your help, buddy.
Let's hear the eagle.
You bet.
The eagle.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Got it.
See you guys. Thanks.